Marriage Story is a 2019 award-winning film directed by Noah Baumbach, an emotional story involving Charlie, a theatre director from New York played by Adam Driver, and Nicole, a one-time movie actress played by Scarlett Johansson. Going through the struggles and arguments that assists a grueling divorce, the disconsolate couple tries to remain a family across cities. In this critical commentary, I will explore how Marriage Story creates meaning for the audience by analysing a scene that takes place halfway through the film. The scene I've chosen happens after the courtroom scene where the lawyers silence Charlie and Nicole. The couple are finally able to find their voices again when Nicole arrives at Charlie's temporary home in hopes of discussing where they want their child to live. This conversation quickly turns into an argument and the competition on who can throw the most personal attacks. I chose this scene as the performance feels very real and it reaches the film's climax as they expose their true feelings for one another. For this analysis, I will mainly discuss how aspects of mise-en-scene and performance evoke an emotional impact on the viewer whilst exploring some elements of editing. The scene begins when Nicole enters Charlie's home and he gives her a prop, a carton of apple juice. According to Nathan Abrams, props may simply serve to strengthen the effect of a setting by making the environment in which the action takes place visually more convincing. However, he goes on to say that props may also have an active function. In this case, the apple juice carton is an active representation of infancy, highlighting the latent presence of their son, Henry, in the room. At this point in their relationship, Henry is the only thing keeping them connected. He is completely powerless in this situation, much like the juice carton that sits there on the floor whilst the two argue. In terms of setting, Noah Baumbach wanted an open kitchen and living room that would feel like a bifurcated set on stage or a split screen in a film. The wall that divides the front room from the kitchen has an active role in portraying the couple's mental proximity. They're together, yet they're separate. As an audience, we can see both of them talking even though they cannot see one another, like having a split screen. The openness of the setting plays to the dynamics of the scene and allows fluid character movement as Baumbach suggests that this scene is really about momentum. The building momentum is reminiscent of the argument scene from Richard Linklater's film Before Midnight. As the camera tracks the characters around a setting, the argument begins to feel like a physical and mental tug-of-war, a back-and-forth consistency of walking away and coming back for more. These scenes feel like the camera is invading a private conversation and is used to make the audience feel uncomfortable. Stanley D. Williams says that the physical suturing is a technique to put the audience physically in the movie. One camera example is to use long, wide takes to stimulate the audience being in the room and watching from a distance. Momentum starts when we are presented with a wide shot of the front room. Nicole creates the first movement by standing up, ruining the eye line, making herself taller than Charlie. She is in control of the argument until Charlie stands up and walks out of shot. The flow follows a continuous attack, defend, and back away method. Character movement paired with the argument becomes a never-ending tug-of-war where they begin attacking each other with raised voices and exaggerated hand movements as they play effortlessly off of each other. In terms of editing, Baumbach said that the movie comes from Charlie and Nicole's perspective, narratively and visually, and goes on to say that through Jennifer Lame's cuts, the audience would naturally be in the perspective they're in, denoting that through her editing style, the audience are able to be positioned into each character's perspective with eyeline matching techniques and cutting in time with dialogue.
Do not compare me to my father!
I didn't compare you to him. I said you were acting like him.
You're exactly like your mother. Everything you're complaining about her, you're doing. You're suffocating Henry.
First of all, I love my mother. She was a wonderful mother.
Just repeating what you told me.
Secondly, how dare you compare my mothering to my mother? I may be like my father, but I am not like my mother.
You are! And you're like my father. You're also like my mother. You're all the bad things about all of these people.
The length of each shot begins to decrease, emphasising the anger and tension in the back-and-forth disputation between the two. Jennifer Lame's editing includes reaction shots in the form of close-ups to expose the raw emotions expressed by Charlie and Nicole. These shots can be extremely powerful, as Ed Sikov said. The closer the camera is to the subject, the more emotional weight the subject gains, which explains why as an audience we begin to sympathise for Nicole's character. Per Persson said that a facing close-up makes it possible for the spectre to generate hypotheses about the mind and feelings of the person depicted. For this reason, this shot technique has been used by various different directors in films such as Midsommar, Get Out, Whiplash, The Lighthouse, If Beale Street Could Talk, and Joker. In terms of performance, Richard Dyer created the 5 performance signs, which are facial expressions, voice, gestures, body posture, and body movement. Lame uses these close-up shots to take advantage of Johansson's performance of expressive, tearful eyes, blank stares, and disagreeing nods, manipulating the viewer to feel commiseration. Ed Sikoff believes that acting is actually an element of mise-en-scene. The quality of acting and performance really contributes to what is visually shown on screen. A socio-realist film like Marriage Story with naturalistic cinematography by Robbie Ryan and minimalistic settings creates expectations for realistic performances. According to Robert Edgar Hunt, you want the actors to embody characters that the audience will perceive as being close to their understanding of reality. This leads us on to how Adam Driver's performance affects the audience throughout this scene in a naturalistic manner. They both did an amazing job at depicting the ugly parts within separation, but Driver's outburst of emotion stood out to me the most. The way he charges at Nicole with his finger pointed, the way his vein and neck creases become more prominent and face becomes red, the way saliva spits out his mouth as he screams and becomes teary-eyed. It almost feels as though he isn't acting. The way he finally breaks down onto his knees beautifully goes against toxic masculinity and helps the male audience relate to such an authentic emotion.
You're such a dick!
Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead. Dead like if I could guarantee Henry would be okay, I'd hope you get an illness and then get hit by a car and die.
This goes to show that performance, as well as editing and mise-en-scene, are extremely important factors when conveying emotion. The scene ends with a final wide shot of Charlie on his knees, hugging Nicole, hysterically crying. Charlie's maroon sweater depicting anger contrasts with Nicole's tranquil blue top and cream cardigan. This final shot juxtaposes the first wide shot used, where the two of them are sat on different sides of the room with a large amount of negative space between them. Cade McCall suggests that interpersonal distance and gaze provide a wealth of information during face-to-face social interactions. Through close character proximity, we can recognise that they understand each other more after this essential argument, but still don't completely see eye to eye.
Oh, hey.
Thanks.